On this week's Gridiron Report, we have the results from Michigan versus Michigan State. The Pistons and the Red Wings are again two of the hottest teams in the league. And we wrap up with a draft of must see Detroit athletes at the moment. So let's get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yo. Yo. In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim. Grit and grind, every inch, every rim. From the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the Gridiron Report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire. Sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire. Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report, where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast. Today is Wednesday, February 26th, and the Pistons are now on the largest win streak in a decade with 7 in a row now.
Yeah, man, it's huge, and I think probably before we start, just wanted to say quick apologies if like our audio is coming to you a little bit different this week. I'm on vacation again, this time to Canada, and we're currently on a Zoom meeting, so we're doing the best that we can. So yeah, to all of our amazing fans out there, if the audio is a little bit different, well, you know why. But yeah, you mentioned it, Ty, the Pistons. Let's talk about the Pistons. I mean, it's insanity. It's crazy what they've been able to do, what JB Bickerstaff and this Detroit Pistons team have been able to do this year. I mean, let's just talk about last year real quick, just to put it all into perspective. 14-68 last year, the worst team in the league, 28 game losing streak, which I believe was the most in a season in NBA history. And now look at them. I mean, it's an incredible turnaround, 32-26. They have a 94% chance of making the playoffs. And I don't know if like this is true or not. This is certainly my opinion, but it's one of the best turnarounds in NBA history, season over season. And especially for a team that they didn't add like a top 100 all-time player. Cause I think you see a lot of big turnarounds in NBA history. If you look back in the history that, they added, a Hall of Fame player to the team. And that's why the team, was able to turn around like that. The Pistons didn't do that. They, and we can get into, why they're having success, but basically just improving their core and then adding some really, really tremendous role players. And I mean, I can't say enough good things about what this team is able to do. 7-game win streak. And I'm just absolutely buzzing, Ty.
It's such a relief to have such a fun team. I mean, you mentioned last year, for those who are, more long-term listeners, who have been, either family, friends, whatever, have been following me, in my sports writing and stuff for the past years. Last year, we were doing a lot of live watches to these games, and I literally remember watching a game. It was like right in the back end of the losing streak. It was probably like loss number 24 or something. We had 30, 35, 40 different people watching live. The Pistons just get absolutely smacked around. I mean, we were doing live watch alongs at least once a week, guys just tuning in to see the Pistons get smacked around with me. And so to go from that to now it's so cathartic. It's in a way that, like you mentioned, it wasn't something that they went out and you had a hometown kid, like for instance, a Jokic or a LeBron James who was from here and he decided his contract was up and he's coming home to bring a championship to the city, a la, Cleveland back in the early 2010s. It was just really the ground base was laid. And they brought in the actual right guys for the job in Trajan Langdon, in Michael Blackstone, in JB Bickerstaff. We've gone over these guys in previous weeks and previous episodes, but each one is playing their part so perfectly from a staffing standpoint. And now the players are starting to actually thrive in their roles. We talked at the trade deadline about how Troy Weaver had gone in each year. He was trying to do these reclamation projects and try and fitting all these players that like had potential together, but they technically shouldn't really be playing together, and all these older vets that really had nothing left in the tank, and how the development was really staggered for our young guys. And then suddenly Trajan Langdon's got this great team together, and these guys that actually played together, and we're seeing all our players take off. I mean, he wasn't done this season. We had our episode, 2 weeks ago at the trade deadline when they added Dennis Schroeder in the DE, which I'm calling the DE, the Dennis Schroeder era. They're averaging 117.8 points per game. They're third in defense, fifth in offense, and second overall in net rating. They are the only team in the NBA since the trade deadline outside of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are still undefeated. I mean, the schedule's going to get more difficult over the next week. I think they play the Celtics, they play a few other teams that are more difficult, that it's going to tell us a little bit more about this team. But it's just it's fantastic. We're watching this team, and you're having so much fun watching these guys have fun. They're enjoying themselves. They're laughing on the bench. They're laughing in the post game. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that they're having fun. I mean, these guys are just all smiles. It's awesome. I mean, game or two games ago, he popped off for 30. And in the post game interview, Malik Beasley comes up to him, and I think Malik had about 20 this game too. And they're all smiles. And Cade goes to Malik like, what did I tell you before the game? Like, don't touch me. I'm sizzling. Like these guys are just they're having fun, and it's like you said, Ty. It's super fun to watch. And I mean, this team, I think they're 21-9 in their last 30 games, which I mean, it's easily the best stretch that the Pistons have had. Like, I mean, as long as I can remember. Yeah, you mentioned the 7 game winning streak. And yeah, on pace for 46, 47 wins. They have a realistic shot of the 4 seed in the playoffs. And I mean, that would be huge, host the 5 seed, have home court in a 7 game series. And you never know what's going to happen when this team is playing like this. And as you said, the DE, the Dennis, the Dennis Schroeder era, it's amazing to see. I mean, I'm just absolutely buzzing watching these guys play basketball. And that's something we haven't been able to say in years. So it's really sweet.
Yeah, I know, and the fans are showing out too. Right now they're ninth in attendance at 18,737 and averaging. So I mean, the fans are coming out. They're showing their love to these players. Everyone, I think, word's getting around the league that like even though we might be a small market or a smaller market, like LCA, they really treat their player. The team treats their players well. The fans come out and show out. I remember back to again when I was doing my solo Piston stuff. That's I went through and broke down kind of month by month wins and losses and stuff. And I originally going into that, I had pegged us at about 25 wins, and then actually breaking it down month by month and saying like, okay, that's chalk that probably be a loss. That one will probably be a win. I ended up somewhere around like the 21 range, so I actually had to bring my expectations down a little bit after breaking down the schedule. Like you said, we're on pace for 46. I don't know if we're gonna get to 46. Like I said, we have a little bit more of a difficult next stretch, next 2 or so weeks. But to even be in the 40s is absolutely incredible. And we'll get into, in future episodes, we'll start talking about who we'd want to see that potential matchup. I know a lot of people are talking about how they want to play the Pacers because the Pacers are, one of the more soft teams in the NBA. I would tend to disagree that we want to play the Pacers just because Miles Turner puts up 40 every time we play him. Some people have said they want to play the Knicks just because there is such bad blood there. It would be absolutely must-see TV, and I think that'd be great for ratings. I don't necessarily know if I want to go up against a Knicks team, even though they're coached by Tom Thibodeau, who famously runs his players into the ground and they kind of flame out towards NBA Finals and NBA playoff time. I don't know. We'll break that down more so in a further episode. But just the fact that we can actually have this conversation just shows that A, we are ahead of schedule, and B, it's this is working. It's proof of concept. What we're doing is working.
You mentioned, a couple, potential matchups. And I truly think that the Pistons, in a 1 game setting, they can go to toe to toe and potentially beat any team in the league. And that's something that we have certainly not been able to say in probably the past 10 or 15 years. Now in a 7 game series, I'm not going to, be delusional and say that the Pistons are the best team in the league and that they're, going to go to the conference finals or anything like that. But if they're playing like this, I truly think that they can go toe to toe and compete with anyone. So,
yeah, and there's a chance before we jump, there's a chance if they keep winning like this, we will have, at most 2 home playoff games. And if it is to play in games, we could have 2 playoff games at LCA. So we just saw what the Lions were able to do with home field advantage and how many fans went out there and how many records they literally broke when they were given the chance in the playoffs. I'm just we LCA. Well, I don't think we had Blake Griffin in 2019. That might have been an LCA. I guess that probably would have been an LCA. But I mean, we got swept that series. So this will be the real first true time I feel like the Detroit Pistons have had a home playoff series or could have a home playoff series at LCA and really forever. So so much to look forward to. Again, they have Boston tonight, Wednesday the 26th. They have Denver on Friday, Brooklyn on Saturday, Utah Jazz, and then the Clippers come back to town, Golden State, Portland. So a real kind of tough next 5, 6 games. We'll come on next week and really have a better idea of where this team stands as we're kind of getting into the final stretch of the season. So shout out to them. Shout out their winning streak. I think that if they win against Boston, their winning streak obviously pushes to 8, and I think that puts them. The last time they did that was in 2006, maybe 2008, I believe. So we're going on,
Wow.
almost 20 years. So just doing historic stuff right now.
Awesome. Love it. And yeah, I mean this team, I should say this city, Detroit. I mean they're hungry for playoff series. I mean we caught, obviously a really good glimpse of it with the Lions the past 2 years. We saw it uh, Comerica Park, first home playoff game in, a decade, and the fans showed out. And I think we're going to see the exact same for the Pistons, and knock on wood, the Red Wings as well. And I guess it's a really good transition to the Wings, who are still one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now. They're actually playing as we record. It's 9:27 Eastern time on Wednesday. They just tied it up. It's 2-2 against the Minnesota Wild. So another big game. But yeah, they are the Wings are 1-0-1 since the Four Nations break, and 8-1-1 in their last 10. So yeah, like I said, they are still one of, if not the hottest teams in the NHL right now. I will say that since the Four Nations break, they did blow two different 2-goal leads. One ended with an OT win, one ended with an OT loss. So still 3 points there. I'm not extremely worried about it, but it's something to keep an eye on. You never want to be blowing leads, especially both of those. They were actually in the third period. So again, not extremely worried, but yeah, the Red Wings, they currently own the number one wild card spot in the East. And so yeah, like I said, they're playing Minnesota right now. They have Columbus at home on Thursday when this podcast is going to be released, and then Columbus again on Saturday. So kind of a doubleheader there with a break. So yeah, I think kind of like the Pistons, we are going to know every week that goes by. It's the home stretch in both the NBA and the NHL season right now. So every week that goes by, we're going to learn more about this team. I think they're certainly playing well. Love how they're playing, but we'll certainly hear more soon.
When you and I first we jumped on the pod to start recording, and I pulled the score of this Red Wings game because I knew they were playing as we were recording, and they were down 2-0, and I was like, oh shit, because obviously you just mentioned that the blown leads that they had over the weekend. Obviously, it was to another game to the Minnesota Wild, so one that I wanted, and now to see that they're all tied up throughout the first 20 minutes or so of the podcast that we've been recording, they've been able to tie it up, a goal from Tarasenko and then a goal from Evanson. So yeah, hopefully they can kind of pull this one out. If not, keep pushing these games into overtime and at least pull out a point to try and at least pad their stats a little bit. But yeah, shout out the Red Wings. Shout out. I mean, I wrote an article the other day about just like, is there a hotter team or hotter city in the country right now, sports wise, than Detroit, with the way the Lions are just absolutely dominating the NFL, the way the Pistons are the hottest team in the league, the Red Wings are one of the youngest, hottest teams in the league. Who knows about the Tigers? They're coming off their magical run. Who knows what they're going to be doing this upcoming season? But like, who has it better than us right now?
I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, yeah, certainly there are probably cities that have it better if they're bringing home championships. But as far as I love the point. As far as like we talked about the turnaround for the Pistons, but really Detroit sports in general. And I was actually just talking about this with one of my buddies, who's not from Detroit, so he kind of sees this from a third party perspective. But even he can see just look back 2 years. He mentioned the Lions start out 1-8 and they almost leak into the playoffs. They don't make it. They still are, not quite there yet. You have the Red Wings who just are in a seemingly never-ending rebuild. Same with the Pistons, one of the worst teams in the league, and then the Tigers as well, one of the worst teams in baseball. And then just fast forward just 2 years, and now, like you said, Ty, you have serious playoff aspirations for not just one or two of these teams, but all four Detroit sports, and including, the Lions, who have solidified themselves as a powerhouse in the NFL. Obviously, haven't got it done yet, haven't taken that final step, but we believe they're very close. And then, you have the Tigers, who are one of the youngest teams in all of baseball, and looking to build on that next year. The Red Wings with a new coach, revitalized, and are one of the hottest teams in the NHL, and then the Pistons, one of the hottest teams, one of the youngest teams in the NBA as well. So as far as being a fan base of anywhere in the country, it's pretty damn fun to be in Detroit, especially what we've been through the last couple of decades.
I unpurposefully dropped a Jim Harbaugh quote there, being that the infamous or famous, however you want to see it, who's got it better than us, which is a great segue. Go back and listen to these last few episodes. I mean, I've been dropping segue gold here, but segue into Michigan State taking on University of Michigan basketball. We covered a little preview before the game last week. In last week's episode, you can go back and listen to that one. We don't, or at least we haven't done a lot of college hoops just because we've had so much to talk about. We're Lions' first podcast, but we have had so much to talk about with the NBA trade deadline, the Lions and their playoff run, the Red Wings, like we said, being so hot. We haven't really had a chance to talk about college hoops. Now that we're getting more into March, I think March Madness, the NCAA tournament, tips off 3 weeks from today. Again, we're recording on Tuesday night, so 3 weeks from today. So we're going to be getting a lot more into these two teams. This game in particular had a lot on the line relating to the outright Big Ten championship. And whether you're in Detroit or in Michigan or not, it seems like everyone was tuned into this game. Garnered 1.7 million viewers on Fox, which is the most college basketball game on a Friday, and the eighth most watched men's regular season college hoops game ever on Fox. I was a little bit shocked by that, just because both these teams have been kind of floundering over the last 5-6 years. Obviously, Tom Izzo's Hall of Famer. Everyone knows Tom Izzo. Dusty May maybe is a little bit more of an unknown, just coming from FAU and stuff. And so I kind of am a little bit shocked to see these numbers, that this many people, and it was prime time. It was 8 o'clock on Friday night, so it was prime time game, and it was a top 15, I believe. They both were 15 matchup, but these numbers surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'm less surprised just because both fan bases are like they love college basketball. And yeah, to your point, both teams the past 3-4 years have kind of just been, below, punching below their weight, if you will, and just not really at the expectation that the fan bases and probably the coaches would like to see. And I really do think that college basketball is better when both Michigan and Michigan State are at elite levels. And we haven't seen it in a while, but the Big Ten is better when these teams are at the top of the standings, which they are right now. And I really do think, I said it on last week's pod, I think this is one of the best, if not the best, rivalry in college basketball. Both these teams are powerhouses, and they've proven in years past that they can be powerhouses, making Final Four runs, making runs all the way to the championship game. Neither team has won a championship. I think Michigan's was in, the late 80s, early 90s. Michigan State's was in 2000. So they haven't been able to get it done, but they certainly have been powerhouses years past. So to have a top 15 matchup, battle for the Big Ten championship, knowing that the winner of the game would have a lead in the Big Ten, I'm certainly not surprised at these ratings. And yeah, I think we can, just jump right into the game, because it was really an incredible game. And I think it was, there were certainly quite a few ebbs and flows, at least from a Michigan State perspective. MSU with a hot start, and seemingly they couldn't miss as a team. Jace Richardson, true freshman, and really a star for the Michigan State Spartans. Starts with a step back three, a driving two, just to open the scoring, a quick 5-0 lead. And then after a really good, probably 4, 5, 6 minutes, it seemed like Michigan State couldn't hit a shot for about 10 minutes after that. And it was horrible, and the verge of a blowout, and really credit to Michigan for taking that first punch, and then really having an outstanding stretch of 8 or 9 minutes. Luckily, MSU battled back to cut it to 4 at the half. But I mean, I don't know about you, Tyler, but I was certainly worried when the Spartans were down. I think they were down as much as 13, 14 points in the first half. I mean, it was getting ugly.
Yeah, 100%. We covered it last week. Michigan State has found that this is the way they like to play their games in the last month or so, and that is to get down by 13 to 15 in the first half, just to make it a little more difficult on themselves. I mean, it was the ebbs and flows, like you said, is how I would describe it perfectly. State came out swinging. Michigan took the uppercut and really just kind of handled the game. I thought Danny Wolf kind of took over, and he didn't end up with that many points. But I think that first half, I feel like a lot of the offense went through him, as it should. When Michigan is rolling, all the offense is running through Danny Wolf. Obviously, their 7-footer who can handle the ball like a 6'1" point guard. You can shoot the three. He was leading their offensive charge, and it was really working. They were just getting what they wanted in the paint against Michigan State, and State didn't have any really counter to it. But like on their offensive side, a team that is specifically really utilizes the kind of old school mentality. They obviously can't shoot the three ball really well in the paint the big man down low in a way that most teams don't really do in today's college basketball. But they weren't able to get anything like that against Michigan's defense. So really the end of the half to be able to battle back, like you said, and only be down by 4 was a great stand for Michigan State. I think they actually started the second half the same way they started the first one, and that was the another step back from Jace. I want to say it might not have been Jace, but obviously then in the end, Michigan State started to get their 3-point going a little bit, which is something they haven't really been able to do this season. They would end up winning 75-62. Jace led the way with 21 points and 6 rebounds for MSU. Fears had 10, who went actually 2 for 4 from three, which is something that Jeremy Fears really hasn't done this year. He's a very much a facilitator first. I'm going to look for other people to get their shots up. So a nice 10 and 50% from three there. Akins had 11, who was unfortunately 1 for 6 from three. So where Jeremy Fears randomly excelled from three, Jaden Akins obviously still continues to struggle. And then Trey Holloman. I really think that this game, I should say, changed when Trey Holloman went on his personal 9-0 run. Trey is one of the Michigan State's better three-point shooters on a team of really none. He's easily their best. In years past, he's averaged upwards of 40%. I think he's having a little bit of a down year percentage-wise, but he hit back-to-back three-pointers, a real quick personal 9-0 run. And I think really after that, it just kind of changed the aspect of this game in general.
Yeah, Trey Hallman was outstanding, and that third three, the step back was absolutely, it was a heat check, and yeah, it was nothing but net too. So that was definitely the difference in the game. I think credit to Michigan, they actually did claw their way back and cut it to maybe, I think they got it to 3 or maybe 2 points on a 3-point play, and luckily the Spartans were able to get it done after that. But huge credit to Michigan. But yeah, I do think, I mean, it was a gigantic win for the Spartans. Seemingly they don't play very well when they head over to Chrysler in Ann Arbor and play the Wolverines. And yeah, just I guess just looking at a couple more notes. You mentioned Danny Wolf. I was watching with my roommate down in Houston, and we were both pretty mesmerized by Danny Wolf. Admittedly, I haven't been able to watch a ton of Michigan basketball this year, maybe just a couple games. And I've seen where Wolf has been projected, as a lottery pick. Didn't really have, an opinion one way or another. And really, I do see it now. I mean, he might be Larry Bird Jr. the way that he plays. And for a 7-footer to move like that, it's pretty impressive. I don't think he had his best game. It seems like he probably struggled a little bit shooting against Michigan State, but he was still making some insane plays. He had a great stat line at the end, 11 points, and then I think he had 7 boards, 8 assists. So if he has his A game, I think that U of M is probably one of the tougher teams to beat in the country, just because, yeah, it's really hard to game plan for a guy that dynamic and a guy that certainly is going to the league. So just wanted to give a quick shout out to Danny Wolf there. But yeah, just in general, very, very proud of the boys, of the Spartans, for pulling that one out. And yep, now that, of course, they sit atop the Big Ten standings. I think Michigan picked up a win against Nebraska. I think it was at Nebraska yesterday. So they are tied. Michigan State, I think they own the tiebreaker, although tiebreaker, it doesn't really matter because, if 2 teams tie or 3 teams, they will just share the Big Ten. So yeah, it's going to come down the stretch. I would love to hear your thoughts on, how many wins you think it will take for Michigan State to get it done. Of course, there's 4 games left. MSU to finish out a huge game at Maryland, number 16th ranked Maryland. Tomorrow, it'll be today when this podcast is out. And then they finish up Wisconsin at home, ranked 11, then at Iowa, and then Michigan at home on Senior Day in the Breslin, which is going to be just an outstanding game and could be the difference in the title right there. That could make or break it. But would love to know what's it going to get it done? How many wins, Ty?
Yeah, I want to go back real quick because you did mention Michigan snuck away with a win at against Nebraska. That would have been Monday night. I don't know if anyone watched that game. That was the ugliest game I think I've ever watched any college basketball team play ever. I saw someone tweeted it. I thought it was hilarious. They were like, somebody for the first time turned on college basketball and it happened to be this game, and they're never going to watch college basketball ever again because of this. The Michigan Wolverines from the field shot 29%. And then from three, they shot 18%. Nebraska from the field shot 25%, and from three shot 21%. I mean,
Oh my
the
God.
final score was 49-46. It was the ugliest rock fight. It was Big Ten football reincarnate, in basketball form. So that was just hilarious that they end up getting the win. So shout out to Michigan, a much needed win. Like you said, every win at this point is going to come down to it. And it's going to matter, but so fucking ugly of a game. But yeah, you laid out. So Michigan State plays at Maryland. Maryland's playing really well right now. They kind of
Mhm.
have a lot of the different pieces that are going to sneak up on you in March. It's not a team I really want to go up against. And then same with Wisconsin. So this are really difficult next two games for them. I think if looking at this, I have in our show notes. I'm not sure if I believe this. I want to believe it. I don't know if I do though. I think one game, winning one of those games might be able to give you a share of the Big Ten title. I don't know if I actually believe that or not. I haven't done the math on it. And I refuse to do the math on it. Definitely 2-2 is going to give you, depending on kind of who the 2-2 come against. I think 2-2 is going to give you a share of the Big Ten title. But I really do think, like you said, it's going to be, it probably will come down to senior day when Michigan comes to town, the last game of the season, which you mentioned a few times, and you mentioned it last week. This rivalry being so fun and so important across college basketball. I love every single time Michigan and Michigan State play at the end of the year, and there's a Big Ten title on the line. Like I absolutely love it. I eat that shit up. It is the most perfect way that plays out, and how when both these two programs are actually rolling and in battling for the Big Ten title. I love that it comes down to this last game, and I also love that it's at the Breslin. So I would be a little more afraid if it was at Chrysler, like this one was. Like you said, we don't necessarily play well at Chrysler, but it's going to come down to that game. I can only imagine it's going to touch the ratings that this game that on Friday just got, because it's going to be probably a Big Ten title on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. It's must see television when these teams play and they're both good. I'm just thinking, I was at, this was early 2020. I was in Chicago for the Big Ten tournament, and the final, the championship was Michigan State, and it's a slugfest. It always is. It's must see television, and I'm pumped. And it's going to be nerve wracking if it comes down to the last game of the season, but it's at the Brez, and Izzo has these boys playing really well. And I think that they certainly have the upper hand, but it's anyone's game. Yeah, I definitely think that Michigan they have turned the corner this year. They're playing extremely well, but I like how we stack up. I like our guys, and Jace Richardson. We mentioned it, but he's just such a dynamic freshman. I think he's projected, maybe a late lottery pick now, which is crazy, and we'll probably get into that in future podcasts on if we think he's going to stay another year or not. I know I have my views on that, but yeah, I mean, drops 21 points in his first game at Ann Arbor, and hopefully not his last game. But yeah, and then yeah, you mentioned Fears with 10 as well. Yeah, it's really funny. I was sitting on my couch with my roommate, and I was quite literally complaining about Jeremy Fears. Sorry, Jeremy, that he doesn't shoot. Like he can shoot. He just doesn't, and teams know it, and they will, sag off on defense, and really it helps them, help defense with other guys. And I just was quite literally, being a fan, yelling at clouds, yelling at Jeremy Fears to shoot a three, and he did about a second later, and he canned it. So yeah, he can certainly shoot. So shout out Jeremy there. He's a dog. But yeah, I mean, it was an incredible win, and I'm so looking forward to the last four games of the season. I think personally, three wins is going to get it done. I think two wins. I see Michigan winning at least two of their next games. Rutgers, they got Rutgers in Illinois at home, at Maryland, and then of course Michigan State. So if they go 2-2, of course Michigan State's going to have to go at least 2-2 for a share. And obviously the two teams play the last game of the season. So, dude, I'm pumped. There's not much more I can say. I'm absolutely fucking pumped for the last four games of this season.
Yeah, Jeremy Fears averaging 37% from three. So, like you said, he's just not getting them up. But when he does, he can hit them. The final thing I'll say on this is that just Michigan State is not going to be able to continue to play the way that they played really in Ann Arbor. It worked out for them well during that game. But just the fact that their big men, Shapala, Carson Cooper, and Jackson Kohler had a combined 8 points. It's just not going to get it done. I mean, Vlad, we talked about Danny Wolf, Vlad, Golden for Michigan finished with 21 points. He kind of led the way, 21 and 5 for them. So I agree. I cannot get enough of this. I can't wait for this, for March to start rolling in here. The weather's going to start getting nice. We're going to get college basketball games. That means so much. But just a warning to Michigan State. I don't think you're going to be able to rely on a personal 9-0 run from Trey Holloman and have your big men combined for just 8 points. So that's the final thing I will say on that. Okay, so we don't have a listener voicemail for the people today, but we do have in lieu of that, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. We obviously spent the first half hour of this podcast talking about how great the new sports in Detroit are, how electric the entire city is, how we have all these young teams, and there's so many honestly different faces of franchises that all deserve our attention and our eyes honestly on an everyday night. So Kyle and I are gonna have a little bit of fun. We're gonna do a snake draft of the guys that demand our attention, the must-see Detroit athletes, current athletes, guys that we are tuning in to see this guy go off. We're gonna go do a little snake draft, so we're gonna get it going. I just have a random number generator here, 1 through 100. So Kyle, give me a even or odd to pick who goes first. You get it right, you'll go first. If you get it wrong, I will go first.
Let's go even.
All right, we'll generate it. 25. Generate into 25, so that means I get the first
Man,
overall pick. I have a feeling you and I were going to
tough.
have the first overall pick, or the first overall option. So I'm really glad that I was able to snake that. I promise there was no foul play there. It's 25. So
All right, all right.
my first pick and the guys that I am tuning in to see in the Detroit athlete era is got
I
to be
already know
Cade
it.
Cunningham.
Yeah,
Cade
yeah,
Cunningham. I mean, of all the faces of the franchise, and maybe it is because basketball is so much of a you're not, their faces aren't restricted with a helmet. There's only five guys on the court at a time, as opposed to the 11 for football and stuff like that, and 11 for baseball and stuff like that. Cade is just, in my opinion, the largest leader of all this Detroit sports teams, and he has to be playing at the highest level across the board for all guys, right? Like, he is the guy you tune in to see night in and night out. He's my 1-1 without a doubt.
yeah. And he was, and that's an easy one. He was my 1-1 too. So yeah, when you got the first pick, I knew you were going with him. But I love the pick. It's perfect. Yeah, like we said, Pistons 21-9 in their last 30. It's because of Cade. He's averaging almost 26 a game. All star. He's incredible. Great 1-1 tie. I will go with, and this is a guy who I think he's easily my 1-2. So I'm glad I'm picking him as my 1-1. But it's Jahmyr Gibbs for me.
Yeah.
One of the best running backs in the league. He is absolutely must see television whenever he touches the ball. I just have a stat for you, Tyler. Since 2000, there have been 237 individual running backs with 300 or more touches in a season. So the highest yards per touch from that group, from that 237, it's Marshall Faulk with 6.6 yards per touch, and then it's Jahmyr Gibbs with 6.4 yards per touch. I mean, he is quite literally, every time he touches the ball, whether it's getting a handoff out of the backfield, catching passes, or some kind of trick play, whatever it might be, he is just absolutely must see, because you never know when he's going to house it for 75 yards. I mean, he's just that talented. He can do it on every play. I'm so glad that he's a Detroit Lion. I'm so glad that Brad Holmes had the balls to draft him when fans, including myself, were scratching their heads. He's an absolute game changer. So he's going to be my 1-1.
So far we're in lockstep. I think after this next pick, we're gonna start going separate ways. But easily
Correct.
1-1 was Cade. Cade is he's Cade. He's Deuce. Gibbs was my number two. Gibbs, every time he touched the ball, you had no idea what you were gonna get. You were gonna get 10 yards. You're gonna get 20 yards. Was he gonna break it for 40 yards? You didn't quite know what you were gonna get, and that's what you absolutely love about him. You love his demeanor. You love his 1-2 tandem and the friendship that he has with David Montgomery, the Sonic and Knuckles. He was easily my second pick. So that's a really great pick for you. My second round pick. So oh wait, no, you have two picks. Snake draft.
Oh, let's go. Did we just get lost in the snake?
Already,
Um,
first snake. This is the first snake draft that we're doing on the pod, so cut us a little bit of slack. But yeah, you get the second. You get the second pick, or the
so
third pick,
so
I should say.
so hand up. I completely just did not realize that if I got the number 2 pick, I was also getting the number 3 pick. So I didn't quite prep for that. So credit to me, just podcasting on the spot right now. Just looking at my list real quick. Just what? Just took a lion. There's other lions that I could probably pick right now. I'm gonna go. I'm going to go a little bit different. This guy, he's been my absolute dog since he was a rookie in the league. I actually got his jersey his rookie season a few years ago. My 1-2, and this might be a stretch. I don't care. Sue me. You cancel me if you want, Tyler. I'm going Lucas Raymond. He leads the Red Wings in points this season by 10. I mean, this guy, he can do it all, and he's still one of the youngest players in the league. I believe he, maybe just turned 23. 22 goals, 41 assists on the season. And he's only getting better. And I really do think he's must see. He just had an assist against, I think they were playing the Ducks yesterday or the day before, which was just insane. A spinorama and got the puck where it needed to be. He's incredible. So yeah, it might have been a bit of a reach. I wanted, the Wings are so hot right now, and I think that he is, as far as Red Wings go, he's absolutely must see television. So I'll take him 1-2.
Okay, so it's interesting. I know he's your dog. I know you absolutely love Raymond. I will say he was not on my list. I have a list, and we'll go through some honorable mentions after. He was not on my list, and I think
Wow.
that's an oversight on my part to not even have him on my list. But I think
It's a reach on mine and an oversight on yours, probably.
100%, 100%. I mean, he's
Yeah.
fantastic. He's so young. It's part of this, and it's really difficult because we are all around such a young team or such a young city in terms of our teams that like you forget he's been here for so long and we were so bad for so long. You forget that he is so young. It's the same thing as like a Kirby Joseph who is you look at Kirby Joseph and you're like, oh well, Brian Branch is younger than him, and it's like Kirby Joseph. That doesn't mean he's old. He's still only like 24 years old. And so I mean, yeah, that's a great pick. Oversight on my part, not even to have him on my list. Reached a little bit by your part, but I absolutely love it. Mine, this is where I thought you were gonna go with this, so I'm glad he fell to me, being that we got caught in the snake draft. And I thought I was up. I thought you were gonna. I had to go one of the faces to the Lions turnaround, and that's Hutch. That I was,
Yeah.
I was
I
admittedly.
couldn't go back to back lines. Like, yeah.
I hand up. I am oftentimes wrong, especially about sports. When we were drafting Hutchinson, I was not about it. I saw the way Kenny Walker ran all over Michigan and Aiden Hutchinson, and I said that guy. We're just taking the hometown kid. We're have our blinders on. I don't like this pick. I don't know if I've ever been more wrong about a player, a person, anything. Hutchinson was having such a fantastic, historic year last year. 7.5 sacks in just 5 games, 12 solo tackles. He led our team in sacks, even though he only played 5 games. 7 tackles for loss, 55 sack yards. Led the team. I mean, any stat you want to look at him and compare it to like the NFL greats, the great NFL seasons, he was on track to match, if not better. So, I mean, that's a layup for me. I got to take Hutch there.
Yeah, it's a fantastic pick. The only reason why I didn't take him is because I didn't want two Lions on my list. I'm trying to get one from each Detroit team, but yeah, I mean that's it's extreme value for you in the second round, the third round, whatever we're in. Yeah, Hutch is an absolute dog, one of my favorite players.
Okay, so now it's back to me without us getting lost in the draft again. Sticks with me. And this is where I thought so I thought you were going to go with Hutch. And then, but I thought when we went over to the Red Wings, whenever that first Red Wings pick was going to be taken, I thought for
Yep.
sure it was going to be this guy. And I got to go Showtime. Showtime, newer, Patty Kane, newer to the Red Wings franchise. For so many years, Patrick Kane was hated in Detroit because he was obviously with the Blackhawks and he had his some of his personal issues and stuff like that. And you talk to any Detroit Red Wings fan who is of the age of like I don't know our age, like 28 and up, 28 to 40 or whatever, and they for the longest time Patrick Kane was probably one of the most hated guys in Detroit. And now that he's here, scoring goals for us, doing his Showtime skills and talents for us, I think absolutely he's fantastic. He's so good. The reason I really picked him was there's no one I want to see more on a Red Wings breakout or in a shootout than Patrick Showtime Kane.
Absolutely. He was on my list. Yeah, I went with Raymond, but Patrick Kane was certainly on my list. Yeah, I mean, just had the overtime winner a few days ago. He's absolutely must. I mean, his name is Showtime. His name literally translates to must see. So yeah, I love that pick, man. And yeah, he's certainly on my list. I am going to pivot. So I have two picks, right?
Yeah.
These are my last two picks in the draft.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, so I did set out for a goal to have one athlete from each of the four major Detroit sports. I am going to a player another young guy, another core on his team, and really a team where I am so excited to see them play and to see what they can build on from a very magical season. And that's the Detroit Tigers, and that's Riley Green. So I'm ecstatic that I'm getting him, one of the most exciting outfielders in my opinion in the entire MLB, with just what he can do in the field. I mean, his diving plays. It seems like every other game he's having just some insane diving play. I don't have his WAR in front of me as far as just his defensive WAR. I'm sure it's pretty high. He also rakes 5.4 WAR last season, which ranked 19th in the league. So he's a very young player, but he's already one of the league's best in the outfield, and I think he's only going to get better too. I think he's gonna start hitting for more power. His average has always been good. It seems like every time he's at the plate, like he can make it happen. He has wheels, and then yeah, like I said, in the field. So I'm going with Riley Green, and I'm so excited to see him play this year.
I remember when the original Tigers core was being developed, and it was really Riley Green, and all the hype was around Torkelson and those two. And I remember watching those two play. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I was the first one to think about this. Maybe I was. Maybe I was the first to actually voice it. I don't know. Sue me. I would remember saying Riley Green's going to be at least double the player that Torkelson is, and obviously that's coming true. Riley Green is so electric. He is he was a first time All-Star last year, right? That was his first time making the All-Star game.
Yep.
He's fantastic. He's a fantastic baseball player, even better person and guy that you want to lead. Again, another rebuilding team that is so fun and electric and young. That's a great pick. I love you going one by one, but now you get the next pick again. So I'm curious to see where you're going with this one.
And process of elimination. I need a Piston, one of the hottest teams in the NBA, and I get to pick them on my Mount Rushmore top four must see Detroit sports athletes. And I'm gonna go with this. So okay, I'm gonna preface this. There's one player in NBA history who has hit 42% on his threes while attempting at
No,
least
don't do it.
11,
Don't
11
pick this guy.
pointers per 36 minutes, and this is according to Basketball Reference. This player has done it 5 times, and that is Steph Curry. However, there is someone else on pace to become the second player ever to be in this elusive group, and that's Malik Beasley. And that's where I'm going with my fourth pick. Malik Beasley, what an absolute dog. What an absolute signing from Cheyenne Landing. Getting him in the offseason. He is just a walking 3-point bucket. He's certainly one of the reasons why the Pistons are having such a historic turnaround this season. He's absolutely electric, and he's hitting on, yeah, like we said, 42% on his threes, and he's average. He's taking 11 threes a game, which is it's an insane volume to be hitting on that clip. I love Malik Beasley. I think, but besides Cade, he is probably my favorite player on this team. I hope he sticks around for a very long time, and he has said that he wants to stick around. He loves what's going on in Detroit, so he's going to be my fourth pick, and I'm pretty ecstatic to get him as my last pick. And yeah, just my guys overall. I'm liking my picks.
A look behind the curtain a little bit. We're trying to figure out a way to get back in the day we used to do these on Twitter Spaces, so you could see us, our faces and stuff. Trying to figure out a way to get recordings on here so when we post this to YouTube, you can see our, us kind of chatting back and forth. If you could have seen my facial expressions when you picked him, I mean, I'm about to cry, right? Malik Beasley, easily my number two Piston play. I mean, like so recently coming to our lives, but I've never seen someone absorb a city so much and mean so much based on his play than Malik Beasley. His mom is from Detroit, so he has ties here. I literally just today I saw someone dug up on Twitter during his draft process. He was mentioning how it would be kind of cool to be drafted to Detroit because his mom is from here. He loves the city, stuff like that. You just laid out all the numbers and stuff he's putting up. He's playing so well and coming off the bench, and he's literally unlocking this team and this lineup and Cade Cunningham in ways that no other player would have been able to do. I'm so distraught that I wasn't able to get it. I shouldn't have gone Showtime. Damn it. I should have went.
Oh, you could have gotten Showtime later, man.
I could have. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's the steal of the draft right there. He was on my list. So now back to me, and then we got some honorable mentions, and then we'll wrap up with some good of the week. So my last pick in the draft, you went with the Tigers. I thought you were going to go to this guy, the only guy that, I mean, we have I love Chris Fetter. I love our pitching staff. I love our rotation. But the only guy you're going to see, on what, once a week, maybe whenever he's in the rotation to see pitch because it's going to be absolutely electric and he's going to give you the emotions you want on the mound. And that's Tarek Skubal, the Cy Young winner, one-time All-Star, Triple Crown, ERA title, ERA last year of 2.39, a WHIP of 9.22, 192 innings last year, 18 wins. I mean, a WAR of 6.3, a career WAR of 11.4. He is absolutely the guy that you are going to see. When I'm looking through the Tigers, we're trying to go to a game or something. The games that I'm looking at, like who's starting, I'm looking to see when Scooby's pitching. He is absolutely fantastic. I mean, there's an argument to be made that his season last year was one of the best pitching seasons for a Tigers pitcher in franchise history.
Absolutely. And I'm my jaw is on the floor because I don't know how that this player was omitted on my list. Scooby is absolutely must see. And no offense to Riley Green, but this is that's a huge swing and a miss for me. Ironically, because Tariq Skubal causes so many swings and misses of his own, but he is absolutely must see television. I don't know if maybe he just wasn't front of mind for me because he's a pitcher and he only pitches every 5 games, but like you said, we're tuning in every time that he's pitching. He's one of, if not the best pitcher in the entire league right now. I'm kind of kicking, ourselves that we didn't sign him to a long-term contract. It's still on the table in the future, but he's on a short-term deal right now. I hope that they can get it done. But love that pick. And you said that Malik Beasley was a steal in the draft. I think Tariq Skubal is the steal in the draft, and I can't believe that he wasn't on my list. He should have been. I blame myself last night being a little tired and yeah, somehow omitting literally the best pitcher in the MLB. So yeah, fantastic pick there.
I think Scooby might be the steal and draft. Malik is my I don't even want to talk about it. I needed him. I needed him over Showtime. I know better. I will be better. So okay, my team: Cade Cunningham, Aiden Hutchinson, Patrick Kane, Tarek Skubal. Your team: Jameer Gibbs, Lucas Raymond, Riley Green, Malik Beasley. I'll put these out. I'll tweet out this episode and then also put out our results. So let us know who had the better must see prime time, guys that you're tuning in based on all of our young electric Detroit sports. So let us know what you think. A few honorable mentions, guys,
Yep.
that if we were to go on forever, which we honestly could, like my honorable mentions is so long, I'm going to cut it down to just four, just because there's so many good guys and good players we have here in Detroit. Jaden Ivey, his way he can get downhill and get to the rack. Asor Thompson and his insane athletic ability. I mean, the Detroit captain, Dylan Larkin, the hometown kid, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the way he was, the sort of a underdog story, and the 201 balls he catches every day. Those are a few of my honorable mentions.
I had those guys too. I mean, I thought long and hard about picking Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's my absolute dog. Ended up going with Jameer Gibbs. I do think that he's just more must see. But yeah, I mean, St. Brown's definitely on there. You mentioned Oscar Thompson, and I also had Larkin on my list. A couple other guys from the Tigers. I mean, I do think they're younger, so maybe you could or could not call them must see. But Kerry Carpenter and Parker Meadows, they both had just such tremendous and memorable plays down the stretch. And in
Hmm.
any of those plays that don't go their way or they don't make those plays, the Tigers drop a game. And that's the difference between them making the playoffs and not last year. So yeah, huge shout out to both of those young men. And I think they're gonna, take another step forward this season. And then yeah, I'm just looking. I mean, Jalen Duren as well. I do think that he's more of a gritty player, maybe not so much must see, but he's throwing up. Cade's throwing up lobs to him all the time, and so that's it's tremendous to see. But yeah, I mean, I think we're really blessed with so many young and up and coming Detroit athletes. So yeah, I mean, the list. I'd be interested to see, how the folks are going to vote. I think that I'd probably lean your list over mine just because of Tariq Skubal over Riley Green. But other than that, I mean, this is our first snake draft. I think we're probably both going to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, let's wrap this thing up. We got grit of the week. For me, I decided to dig a little bit deeper. I gave three grits of the week last week. I decided to go do a little bit more digging, and I'm going to give my grit of the week to Tobias Harris. So, Tobias Harris, when we ended up signing him this past offseason, there's a lot of people that were frustrated with the signing. They were admittedly they were looking to go big game hunting, big start hunting, but obviously we ended with Tobias Harris. I was fine with it. I thought he filled a great position of need for Detroit. He came out of the season really slowly though, And so that people immediately were pointing and taking their victory laps. I think now we're the ones taking the victory laps, the Tobias Harris supporters, because he's been absolutely fantastic over the last 7 games since the trade deadline, since the Pistons have really gone on the 7 game win streak. He's averaging 19 points, 5.3 rebounds, 1.7 assists, and is shooting the three ball at 42%. So he's being exactly what we need him to be alongside Cade. And just one last thing before I throw the grid of the week over to you is the Paul George was kind of the switch out in Philadelphia. It was Philly kicked out Tobias Harris and they brought in Paul George literally word for word because they said Tobias Harris just couldn't get it done, wasn't healthy enough, stuff like that. Tobias Harris has played 56 points. Again, just over these last 7 games, averaging 19 points, 42% from three. Paul George only played 38 games this season, averaging 16 points per game, 35% from three. So you tell me who you'd rather have. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Grid of the week to Tobias.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's literally it's a verbal meme, and I can't take credit for this. I saw it on Twitter, but it's a verbal meme of the two guys on the bus, and one is happy and one is sad, and the guy who's happy, that's Tobias Harris, and then the guy who's sad is Paul George. So and it's really Philly fans in general that are sad. So yeah, I love it. Like you said, he got off to a really slow start in Detroit, and I was kind of punching air a little bit. He's been so tremendous, and he's been a really important piece to this Pistons team. So love that pick. Shout out Tobias Harris, grid of the week. I am going to go with a certain someone who ended up on your top 4 must-see athletes, Detroit athletes right now. It's one that you were kicking yourself for. I thought it was a great pick, and that is Showtime himself, Patrick Kane. Once again, I mean, you said it, multiple times. We said it multiple times on this podcast, but he really is must-see when he has that puck on his stick in a breakaway in a meaningful tie game. Maybe it's a shootout, maybe it's in overtime, but you want the puck on his stick because the things that he can do. I mean, he can just score from so many different angles. I mean, his dekes, it seems like they don't age. Like a hockey player might. If anything, they're aging like fine wine because it seems like his dekes are even better. So yeah, he's absolute must see. Love that you picked him as your 4 there, and he's my grid of the week. Again, yeah, overtime winner. It seems like he's making plays left and right for the Detroit Red Wings. He loves being there. We grew up probably hating Patrick Kane. I definitely hated Patrick Kane. Now I absolutely love him, and happy to give him a grid of the week here. He's Showtime.
Yeah, Patty, absolutely deserving of it, having that winner. That was so smooth and seamless just through the 5 hole. Patrick Kane, if you're listening to this, I don't dislike you on my team. I just love Malik Beasley that much. I'm happy to have you on Team T-Dot. And if you want to come on the podcast to accept your grid of the week, I will gladly chat with you and we can decide how we're going to take our team and what we're going to do with our 4 or 3 others must-see guys. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. He's so deserving of that award. He is the guy, like I said, I mean, I walked through why I picked him. If we have one guy on that breakaway, one guy with the puck on his stick, I want him. He is as close that we've gotten to Pavel Datsyuk since the Magic Man himself. Just like because you don't know where he's gonna go, he truly could put the puck anywhere in the net, and it's just gonna be absolutely electric. So yeah, shout out him as always,
And
Tobias and Patty. Open invitation to come on the pod and accept your award.
yeah, absolutely. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Ty. Just one more thing. We're talking about the Red Wings. We're talking about Patrick Kane. They did just take the lead as we're recording right now on Tuesday night, 3-2. Edmondson with his second goal of the game. So another young star just blossoming right in front of our eyes. So I think there's about 7 minutes left in the game. Let's hope that the boys can get it done. And when this podcast is published tomorrow, the boys have another 2 points. But yeah, shout out the Red Wings, shout out Patrick Kane, and Tobias Harris, grid of the week.
Hell yeah, boys. All right, that's our show. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. You can find Kyle on Twitter at Kyle_Marino. You can find me on Twitter at Dutton_Tyler, and at both Piston Powered and Champaign Athletics. Join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the pod. That phone number is 313-306-7939. And if you like this episode, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars and leave us a review letting us know that my team was the better must-see Detroit Tigers and Pistons and Red Wings as opposed to Kyle's.
Oh, I love it, man. And thanks, guys. Restore the roar.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired, grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The gridiron report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow. Make your fandom